Right, we want to buckle down to business right now. Of course, you're watching the Leadership Forum, and this morning we want to tackle the issue of corruption in a different way. Because yes, it seems that, we've been training our focus on the procurement officers and accounting officers, but are we really running the whole gamut as far as corruption is concerned? Because some of these decisions that are just not made at the tail end of the spectrum, but they begin from the boardroom as well. So many of the budgets that we know cannot be just approved by accounting officers or the procurement managers. It has to be a board decision. So where does it emanate? We want to see what the corporate governance can actually do for this country if all these calls that we know from the listed companies, from the also Nairobi Security Exchange, some of the listed companies there can actually adhere to some of the corporate governance codes that we know they're in full force right now. Also from the State Department, the parastatals, we have the Mwongozo Code, but how come when we do have all these ethics and of course regulations and codes from this, some of these codes that we know like Mwongozo and the Corporate Governance Code from the listed companies, why are we not seeing any discernible difference as far as ethical leadership is concerned? Procurement has been also on the spotlight lately because of malpractices, yet we do have a new law as far as procurement is concerned, that is the latest procurement that we do know, the Act of 2015. We have our guests here today who are drawn from various sectors, from procurement and of course also on the corporate governance. Some of them also have been heavily involved in coming up with the corporate governance as well, the codes that we have from the listed companies and also Mwongozo Code as well. Allow me to introduce to you this morning Reverend Geoffrey Njenga. He's a corporate governance expert, also a professional mediator. We do have with us as well Professor Gituro Wainaina. He's from the University of Nairobi School of Business. Also, we have with us Engineer Chris Oanda, who is the chairman of the Kenya Institute of Supplies Management, that is Gesami, also consulting. He consults in supply chain management. And we have with us also Professor Rachel Gesami. She's an economist, also the chair of Nelson Mandela GNU and the president of SAF, that is University of Nairobi. We'll give you more details of them much later in the course of the program. And we're eagerly waiting also for Patrick Obath, who is running late, to just join us as well, who is also the vice chair of the International Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So that will be much later also in the course of the program. But let's just begin from where we are right now as a country. And we just also highlighted a story there that corruption is spreading its tentacles everywhere, even in sports. Right now we know of what is happening with Eden Marwa, that he cannot now go to the World Cup to actually participate as a referee because of issues of corruption. So this is just falling, or the other shoe is falling, as we can see also the NYS cases, they're still in court right now. Let's just begin from the corporate perspective. Where are we failing? We have Mwongozo Code, Reverend Njenga. You are heavily involved in coming up with the corporate codes, governance for the listed companies, Mwongozo Code. But where is there no discernible difference on this? Let's begin with you, Rev.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Inea. Yes, it is true. I think we are having a serious problem with corruption in this country, because I think we are tending to deal with the manifestation of corruption and not the heart of the problem. Corporate governance assumes that the infrastructure is right and also the people involved are right.
Yes. Because
corporate governance really is about leadership and influence. And I think that as a nation we need to be asking ourselves, what kind of influencers do we have? Who do we have doing what? And I think we are not asking the hard question.
Yes.
The system of corporate governance assumes that there are proper checks and balances, and there is authority, and also there is responsibility. It would appear to me that we are moving away, further away from taking personal responsibility over our destiny as a nation. And I think that's where it ought to begin.
Right, let's hear from Chris Oanda. That's where it ought to begin. You agree? We hold with this view?
Absolutely. We need to take a holistic view in the fight against corruption.
Yes.
And first of all, abhor it in its very form. We, as practitioners, professionals in industry, in particular speaking for or the supplies practitioners
Yes.
who run the procurement process in both the public and private sectors. We, as a body, abhor corruption and
Yes.
its very form. And we train our members on a regular basis, and we have personal contact with over 4,500 professionals every year.
Yes.
And one of the leading aspects of what we train is adherence to the Kenya Institute of Supplies Management Code of Ethics, which says corruption is bad, corruption shouldn't be practiced. But as Reverend says, it's one thing as an institute to pronounce one code and then police it. We expect members to actually live the correct code in all their life, not only in procurement, but also in other aspects of life. And as we've seen in our society,
Yes.
corruption keeps rearing its head in very many areas. And it's a societal problem that we tend to look for a weak spot and pile our pressure there, which is a symptom, and then we feel good that we are actually chasing corruption out of society
Yes.
by just focusing on one thing. And we, as the procurement people in this country, are saying, look, let's take a broad view and address this problem holistically by ensuring that all the touch points where possibly corruption does take place, then they are addressed
Yes.
in this country. That's really why I agree with the referent.
Okay. Let's hear from also Professor Gesami.
Thank you, Debarl. I think they have summarized it very well. Corruption is a big issue in Kenya today, and basically we can say in the world, because we have seen it elsewhere.
Yes.
But we need to have one step back and look at our national values. Did we lose a step somewhere? Why are we, so open to just take bribes? Corruption is a wheel that now goes even through schools. So you wonder, where are we with our national values?
Yes.
What are the principles of corporate governance, really, when you think about it? We ask ourselves, how patriotic are we as Kenyans? If we can take an office and turn it upside down and root everything that there is in that office that is meant for the public, is meant for the people of Kenya, we root it once and go with it. So we need to look at our national values. We need to look at where we went wrong. We want to look at whether we are going through our rule of law properly, so that we can start bringing back the human dignity in this country. Corruption has eroded so much that we are left bare, and we need to start going back to look even at the syllabus that we are educating our children. Do we actually have ethics there? And what is the definition of ethics? What is the definition of national governance,
Yes.
if you want to ask? So we can ask a lot of questions, but we do need to reach a point where we say enough is enough. I think if you look at the government has put in a lot of legislation
Yes.
to try and curb corruption, but it seems to be getting out of hand. So we need to look at that.
All right, let's hear from Professor Gituro. What could have really gone wrong? And why do we have this corporate governance after you've come up with a very, very good codes and the report and recommendation, they're not being implemented? At least we can see, yes, from the Capital Markets Authority, some of the requirements from the governance or the codes are being stipulated, where the directors now, they actually declare also their salaries with their annual reports as well. Just give us more.
Thanks, and it's good to have me here. I really appreciate it. And let me first, before I even get to what you're asking, really appreciate the fourth estate.
Yes.
Really. And I think I'm really excited by the fourth estate. This is the first time I was like, hey, guys, move on. We must bring these things out. And you have a responsibility. Because this thing is not Reverend Njenga or Chris or my sister here.
Yes.
You'll be cleared, my brother. These are serious guys. So when you have an institution like the fourth estate bringing it out, I think it's important that we encourage this. And I want to even get, yesterday, I have this, I can't remember which page is it of The Nation.
Yes.
And they asked Mwananchi, what do you think? If you look yesterday, Nation, they asked me, should we have a death penalty? 99% said yes.
They want a death penalty.
They want a death penalty. They wanted to do it square.
Yes.
And I think why we haven't really implemented it, it's lack of will. It's in terms of the implementers. The person who was supposed to do it are actually the one involved in it. So I'm not going to do it. And I think my view is very, very strong in terms of it. And today's nation is very telling.
Yes.
Actually, two stories here.
Yes.
There's one about this gentleman,
yes,
about the football. He's up there.
Yes.
The football. Up a bit.
Oh, up, yes. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. World Cup referee, Marwa.
Yes.
And we are...
Then get to the down one. And this is really, really down, not
yes,
the PS. About the plane.
About the plane itself is about the crash.
Yes.
Yes.
And I did as Kenyans, we feel sad and our condolences. If you read this story,
yes,
this plane was not the height it should be. This plane did not go through the path. There's no path there.
The flight path, yes.
There's no flight path.
Yes.
Why? Because somebody somewhere, today, I'm telling my brother, today, you get a plane crashing that we did, there's something wrong in the navigation kit. What happened? I was trying to cut corners. Maybe by the plane itself. To me, that's a high level of corruption.
Cut corners, because now they couldn't have gone that way without go ahead from, you know, the traffic.
The navigation
yeah,
should have told you that's not the path. The navigation should have told you there's a hill. Either divert or go up. That plane should have that. It's a basic requirement. And I think, to me, the question you're asking, we have Mongoso, and we're with the leverage Njenga doing the code for CMA.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
the Capital Markets Authority.
Yes, you have that corruption, you have all this. What it needs, to me, is very serious, no-nonsense approach. I'll give this example before I forget. About 6 months, we had 21 gun salute for the South Korean president, Park.
Yes.
Why is she today?
In prison.
Prison. And it's not the one who was robbed, it's through a friend.
Yes.
It's through a friend.
It's a proxy, actually.
Correct.
Yeah, yes.
It was a proxy, that's how it was. And I think there's somewhere we need to take it strong. And what I'm saying, it's not Njenga, it's not you, because these guys are tough. It's indeed the highest office where you can't get touched that office. So the implementation, to me, here is the laws are there. Let's not go to Mongoso. Let's not go to the law. How do you implement? Michuki never invented in law when it deals with the matatu. And it worked. We need a no-nonsense approach to this.
A no-nonsense approach to this that will be also raising the ire of the civil societies. And of course, they will say, of course, we have codified within the Constitution the Bill of Rights. So we cannot say, I don't know if it's a capital punishment that people are really gagging for. Then where do we draw the line between law and also the human rights?
I think just to pick it up from where Professor Gituro, as Square put it,
yes,
there are enough laws in this country.
Correct.
If I speak from the professional side,
yes,
as practitioners, every country has got laws that govern how you do procurement.
Yes.
In this country, and even through the Constitution, we expect that companies that are listed should lead by example in how they conduct their procurement. And the first requirement is that you should engage people who are duly qualified in all aspects of the professions that they actually engage. In particular, when I talk about procurement, you are expected as the CEO of a big corporate to ensure that you recruit and you retain fully qualified and certified procurement officers who actually work for you. And it's a criminal activity to do otherwise, both for the employees you put in place and yourself as the CEO. Because in this country, we see that we spend over 1.5 trillion in procurement processes.
Yes.
Now, if you don't put that money in the spend of people who are adequately trained and who will give you an opinion that says this is right to do, this is wrong to do, it's not that there is no law to follow. It's just that you choose as the CEO to rely on expertise that is inadequate. And why do you put inadequate expertise there? We're calling on our CEOs, both in the listed companies, in the small companies, in the public sector, to work with professional accountants, to work with professional procurement people, so that they deliver value for this country, for the big spend that we go through it. And the big companies have got actually a bigger responsibility because they set an example. Smaller companies follow suit. So when you've got overt corruption activities taking place in big companies, what do the small ones do? It's not for lack of law and legislation. It's actually at the heart of it. How do we implement what we do which is good? As Sister Rachel said, where is our patriotism? Where do we lose it in this country? if we pick it from there, and I'm glad for the current political leadership that they are saying, let's lead from the front. But they also have to lead practically by going through the motions. And we as professionals have been saying this drive for attacking procurement, corruption in organizations is good, but do it broadly. Then we know you are very serious. We'll support you. We will give you capabilities that we have in organizations as practitioners to ensure that the vetting is thorough, the vetting is fair, the vetting is constitutionally sound, so that you deliver the results you want.
All right.
It's not drama that we want.
Okay.
We want to deliver real results for this country, and that's where we give the support.
Right. Let's hear from Reverend Njenga.
You see, the architecture, Debarl, is as good as the people who manage it. When we began doing vetting in this country, some of us got very excited. We thought, well, we are going to get it because we are going to look for the very best person for the job.
Yes.
If you ask many Kenyans today, they are cynical about that entire process.
Yes.
It's all cooked up now. We all know. We don't talk too much about it. But we are not getting the best person for the job. Corporate governance assumes a number of things. One of them is knowledge. And we have in this country very knowledgeable people who are not getting the chance to apply what they know, and they do it well, because I think the vetting process is botched up. It also assumes integrity, that the people you get in the process have integrity. They know what is right and what is wrong. We seem to be developing a bunch of people in this country who really have no clue what is right and what is wrong. When you steal money going to a hospital, what are you saying? When you steal money going to the young people, what are you saying? The process assumes hard work. We are moving further and further away from hard work. The process assumes that I will be responsible, and we seem to be creating bureaucracy that reports to nobody. I mean, if there's a problem in K&H, for instance, don't we have someone responsible for that hospital? And we open discussions in all manner of other places, and we are not asking the person who is responsible for that institution to give an answer, and if they can't, they simply go. Again, we have politicized things.
Yes.
I, as the head of an institution, it seems like I have to look at my backside. Am I covered politically? And the moment you bring in politics into these things, it's done. Because politics, the way I understand it, and I could be wrong, is many things to many people. It is not about productivity, it's not about integrity, it's not about doing what is right as it is practiced in our country. We've got to make sure we have bureaucracy that works, that is has enough responsibility and authority, and the people we put in there must be people of integrity. We have enough of those people in this country. Why are we not getting them? Why are we recycling people we know have a bad record? What do we expect them to do?
Right. Why do we keep on recycling? Of course, people we know they have a bad record. That's a good question. And of course, also we can also train our focus on recent also appointment by President Uhuru Kenyatta to some of his boards that we have currently in the country as well. The regurgitation still of the same old faces that we
I'm sure he considered very many things.
Equally did. Right, thank you. Let's just rope in Patrick Obath, who's just joined us today. You slept through your alarm, actually.
Yeah, unfortunately, my alarm is set for the whole week, and last week on the 1st of June, I set it off and I forgot to reset it this morning.
Yeah, I wondered. Because you normally bang on time, I know. Right?
Yeah,
just briefly before we take a short break, just your comments, just briefly, then we take a short break. We'll circle back with you.
I think the whole essence of getting people of knowledge, getting people of integrity, and then using those people in terms of vetting others to come in to the system, I think is important. I fully agree with the Reverend here. We have all the systems in Kenya. We've got the laws, we've got everything. Right? Now, integrity,
where are they?
Yeah, that is really the issue. What is a person of integrity?
They live in this country.
Right? There are people in this country who are people of integrity. I think the essence is that people of integrity a lot of times are ignored because they are not seen to shine. Yeah. Because integrity is not a measure of success in this country. Integrity is what people value, and they'll value you as a person of integrity. But they will not see you as successful. And a lot of things in this country are driven by who is a successful person in X, Y, and Z, put them in place. And yet we forget that integrity is absolutely crucial in terms of ensuring that proper things happen in this country. And I think that really, for me, is the bottom line.
Right.
And I think Professor asked the right question.
Thank you.
How do we...
And then, Professor, I'm sorry to butt in. We have to take a short break. But yes, the whistle is about to blow off, I should say. And of course, you know, you're watching the home of the real story. And here is where you will also be getting to see the World Cup, right? So the days are just, of course, going by. And we're eagerly awaiting to see that particular launch. And of course, keep it here, locked on NTV, where we'll give you all the nitty-gritties about the World Cup. We continue apace with a conversation here on the Leadership Forum. Today we turn our focus on corporate governance and the fight on corruption. Where is the mismatch and why aren't we having any discernible difference? Yet we do have these codes. We have the CMA codes, we have the Mongozo code and many other codes from different institutions. Yet we are none the wiser as far as making sure that ethical codes are followed and ethical leadership also is being experienced here in the country. I'm holding court this morning once more just to give you a snippet of that. If you're joining us this morning with Professor Gituro Wainaina from the University of Nairobi School of Business. Also, we do have with us Reverend Geoffrey Njenga, who is a corporate governance expert and also a professional mediator. We do have with us as well Professor Rachel Gesami. She's an economist and also the chair of Nelson Mandela from JNU University and also president of SAF, that is Nairobi. And we do have with us also engineer Chris Oanda from the Kenya Institute of Supplies Management, also is a consultant on issues to do with supply management. And we have Patrick Obath with us as well. Patrick Obath, he is the board member of International Chamber of Commerce and also the vice chair of KEPSA Foundation. Right, let's continue apace with the conversation. I think we promised to circle back with you, Reverend Njenga, right? There was a heated debate that was ensuing between Patrick Obath and you guys, right? Okay.
I wanted to say we have one big problem in this country,
yes.
And the problem is we have glorified material.
Glorified material.
Nothing else matters. And we see the job not with the mindset of what I will bring into it, but what I'll get out of it. And therefore, people are rushing in to get as much as possible. And in this country, we don't ask anybody how they got what they have. If I am driving a brand new Mercedes today, you are likely to tell me, I am very successful, I'm doing very well. You don't ask me, yesterday you had a Pro Box, so what happened? And therefore, people have tended... sorry?
No, not at all.
Yeah, people have tended then to rush in to get as much as they can. Because material in this country appears to be an end in itself. I think as a nation, and someone talked here about values, we need to go back and ask ourselves, what is all this about? And none of us can wear two shirts. If I found you with two shirts, I'll call the psychiatrist or some mental doctor. And all these houses and all these material, if I have received 60 million shillings in my account and I knew nothing about it, where do I go with that kind of money? So we have glorified material. I think we've forgotten hard work. I can't say enough about that. Hard work is its own reward. We've got to be willing to work. Ask anybody now, we become a nation of deals, and that's where gambling comes in. We want to gamble because we want to make instant wealth, to make as much as we can at the earliest opportunity with the little input. We've got to go back to hard work, and we've got to help people understand there's hard work. But if they see me as their leader enjoying illicit wealth with abandon, I didn't work for it, what message are we sending to the young people coming from schools? And then we have half-hearted pursuit. And I'm so happy about the fact that some people have been arrested. Obviously, they'll go through the process. And we are holding people to account. There cannot be progress in whichever way, wherever, without holding people to account. And we've got to move away from this half-hearted pursuit of those we know have done wrong.
Thank you. Right. Let's hear from Rachel before.
I want to come in, Patrick.
Can we hear Rachel before so that you men, you don't swallow her here? All right. Let's hear from Rachel.
Thank you. No, I'm unswallowable. Thank you.
You're unswallowable.
I'm happy that this subject is on the table. I just want to be very systematic in what I'm saying. The presidency in 2015 issued an executive order and I want us to move from there.
Yes.
That executive order gave a number of legislation to be done, to be put to, laws to be enacted and be implemented. And I will list them. I will list them so that they are on record. The Leadership and Integrity Act that was enacted,
yes,
pursuant to Article 80 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010.
Yes.
The Public Officers Ethics Act 2013,
yes,
which regulates the conduct of public officers. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act 2011, that addresses mechanisms to fight corruption. And the Public Finance Management Act, which regulates use of public finances. Now, do we say the government has failed? I don't think so. The government is putting everything in place. What I think is required is actually change of heart from us Kenyans. Because if I'm given an office and I root everything, I go. And as Dr. Njenga says, you go, you get a Mercedes, you get this. Nobody does or conducts a lifestyle audit in this country. If the house I live in,
yes,
I built it for almost 15 years from a civil service salary,
yes,
where my husband will take a cooperative loan, I take a cooperative loan, we build, we cross the site, we go away for 3 years because we have to pay that loan. These days, it is possible, it's almost magic. A house starts today, in exactly 6 weeks, or 12, if that is materially possible, the house is up and the people have moved in. What magic are they making? What kind of money are they getting? And you know that this person is either a procurement officer here or a finance officer here. He works in government. We do know the salary scales in government. So we need to be told what the problem is. And we are calling on government, on the president himself and the deputy president to come up and tell us what needs to be done in this country.
Right.
We have the ethics, we have the national values which,
yes,
which are in the Constitution. So we need to move. We don't need we don't need to actually get emotions out here.
Yes,
we just need to start working on moving this.
We saw the president also presenting the, that national values report also during the State of the Nation address as well. But
exactly,
where are we losing it? We have that report. It's never now been also given to the public domain for people to really know. We have Article 10 in the Constitution, but why?
We've got to hold people to account.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear from Chris. We'll come to you.
Debarl, I just want to agree with my sister, Rachel here, Prof, that we cannot condone and we should not accept runaway corruption or corruption of any form in this country. But we have also specialized in one thing in this country, escapism. Pinning our dirty coat on a few people, and we think that they'll wash away the sins of this country. And this has happened so frequently. You just had Rachel giving a dissertation of the effects and the perceptions of corruption. And she just mentioned two. She said either these people... The Kenya Social Supplies Management, we do not condone corruption. And I tell you, we go around the country, we meet CEOs every year, we meet senior practitioners, and we meet over 4,500, and we say, live by the code of what you are trained, because we believe in ethical procurement. Now, in society, unfortunately, at the moment, if you say, I'm a procurement officer, people start looking at what car you're driving, which sort of house do you live in. But in reality, there are so many good people in this country. Professor Gituro asked, where are the good people in this country? There are a number of good people in this country. And demonstrably, there are very many procurement officers, Rachel, who are civil servants like you are. And they are still living in houses they are building for 10 years because they believe that public resources are not for them. We spend in this country over 1.5 trillion shillings in procurement of goods and services. That's why you see roads, that's why you see buildings standing, that's why you see bridges. But we have exceptions that amidst all that spend, there are a few people whom we need to identify, which is why we support the vetting, and weed them out of the process. So that the name, Prof, give me this opportunity kindly, because I need to put it very clearly, that not every procurement officer, not every finance officer you see walking is a national thief. These are people who are dedicated to a very large extent. I am the national chairman, and in our file, we do receive very frequent letters and reports from the counties where people are saying, my CEO my accounting officer is forcing me to do this and I don't want to do that. And a few weeks later,
Chris,
you see the person
good.
just go away.
I think, Chris, that's good. And I see, I have also, you see, there are good people in this country. Yeah. And one person who comes to my mind, and I'm not ashamed to name him, is Francis Mudaura. Yeah.
Yes.
Francis can walk here if we want in this town.
Yeah.
And Francis has been very powerful position. Powerful. What I'm trying to say here, and I think we are not smoking out this damn thing. No. And let's look at it from this way. And I think you're putting it this way. Once set here, we have the rules, we have the corporate, we have everything, we have Mongoso. It's there.
Yes.
Let's go to the next level. Practice.
Yep.
Yes.
Make it happen.
Different, Patrick.
Yeah. Make it happen across the board.
Different, Patrick.
Yeah.
Consumption.
Yeah.
Conspicuous consumption.
Yeah.
Yeah? You somebody will say, Patrick, how did you buy a second-hand car? How can you sit in a car somebody else was sitting on it? You now have to get a new one. I think what we need to look at, the practice is very different from what we have.
Yeah.
I think to me, is the whole concept, how deal with it, and the sanction part of it. If you can say A, B, C, D, how you deal with it. And I think we must commend the president, the step is taken, but it's not good enough.
Yes.
Not good enough.
It's not good enough.
I think.
And the point I want to bring here, corruption is not procurement officers. Corruption is not the police. It's us all.
That's a good
the
point.
system.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one who bribe the police officer.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Some of us even have the money. I think Patrick and the team, what are the things we can say? 2, 3 things. Let me give you one thing and I probably stop at that point. My mind is very clear when you look at driving license, renewal of driving license. We used to queue from Njenga house to Telecom house. Queuing. And there are guys there saying, if you give me 1,000, I'll bring a DL very quickly. Yeah. Today, I can get it from now. Because when you're dealing, and I found this in Cambridge. I went to Cambridge. They tell you can go to that building, you cannot go to that building. They give you a card. There's technology to talk to you. That's the quota we have. Yeah. And you have to deal squarely. And I think, in my view, ladies and gentlemen, what are the things we can say? 1, 2, 3 things, not more than that. We need to address this.
I have one.
Go ahead, Pat.
And I think it's around the leadership issue. When the current president was the Minister for Finance, right, he actually made one procurement decision that everybody would have a VW Passat.
Yes.
Where did that go? Where did that go? That was trying to reduce that sort of the consumption issue within government. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the first thing that has to happen is right from the leadership all the way down, we have to minimize that conspicuous consumption by edict. Yeah. And I think where the president is sitting now, he has the opportunity to basically start, not by procurement is just one of the items,
right.
But we need to have the optic nationally that says we are only going to have Passats as the most expensive vehicle in government. Get rid of everything and get rid of it by the end of next week. And stick with it. Yeah. And systematically remove the issue of conspicuous consumption. And if that is done right from the top all the way down, the issue of 6 people of security looking after me.
Right.
Am I a criminal?
Perhaps you
right?
are.
Do I? Right? I mean, there is something that means I need 6 people.
All right.
No, by example.
So if, like as Prof said, Ambassador Mdauro walks in the streets and he doesn't need any security, he's a guy who's respected that way, right? So we need to get down to a point where I can walk through the street because people respect me. That's right. I only have the tools of trade which I need to go around, right? And 4 wheels and an engine that works is enough. It does not have to be an expensive, conspicuous car. Once we start going down that way, and we persist and keep that going for a year as a campaign, right? And then ask anybody else who rises above that, tell us what happened.
Correct.
Right? But before you've done that, you can't ask, how did you do it? Because you yourself are in that same place.
All right.
So I think the first thing for me is important is we need to get that big drive that removes conspicuous consumption in this country.
All right. And of course, because why we've started maybe with the procurement, because it is of the essence of having very huge budgets that we stash on procurements in this country. And you've mentioned running in trillions. How much was it, right?
1.5 trillion.
1.5
in this country.
in this country. And yet we have when you look very keenly, some of the bloated tenders that we do have there, if we compare them to the market value, we want to turn our focus especially on the procurement side today, in light of the Procurement Public and Disposal Act 2015. A lot of things, all right, are really happening in there. And I've been in that practice myself. I know it very well. Prior to really joining to media, prior joining media, actually, I practiced as a procurement officer, right, in one of the NGOs in this country. And I know sometimes I sit here and wonder, did I make a mistake maybe crossing over, comparing my life to their lives as well? Because it seems they've really moved on, right?
We are going to audit you.
We are going to audit me. Right? Just a moment. So we want actually to come to you, Chris, and you tell us truly. If you're talking about ethical and following ethical codes, we know from the Procurement Act you have codes. Even from your own institutions, you do have codes. People have registered. Why is it then that we know so many cases are coming to the fore, procurement officers are being blamed on this, and still we don't seem to feel the effect of the institution in terms of registering? We want to see some procurement officers being just a moment.
On the issue of procurement.
Can I finish my... Yes.
There is an assumption here.
What is the assumption?
The procurement officer manages a process, right? That process is fed by a want. So me, as the engineer designing the road, I create a design. I create what is to be delivered. Now, if within that creation of that tender document, I put in place things that will allow me to extract money over bloated specification, the procurement officer has no chance, because I am the technical expert in terms of making this document that will drive the procurement. The procurement officer will purely make sure that the procurement process is actually done properly and in accordance with the letter.
Right.
So if I, for example, put within that procurement, and I'll be very specific because this is one that I busted. I put in a procurement where there is what I call an additional provisional items within a procurement, right? And you say excavation of a rock, yeah? When I know that that should not be a provisional item, which may happen, the place we are going to dig is full of rocks only. And the amount that is there for the normal procurement then can be very small,
yes,
and the amount for rocks very high. When you do the evaluation, you do not include the provisional items because they may not happen. You look at the main thing. So I come out with a very low value on the tender.
Exactly.
Right? It is me, the professional, who wrote that thing, not the procurement guy who can handle that. Because when now it comes to the implementation, you find that there is rocks everywhere. So you use this provisional item, which was never actually evaluated, but which is 6 times the value of what you should have been using there. So the procurement looks very bloated. It is legally and contractually correct. You cannot get out of it. But I am making money as the person who started that procurement process.
Yes.
So the procurement officers you're talking about.
Yes, but this is the essence of the whole discussion. Because we know, and actually I think, Mr. Oanda, you can tell us on this. Yes, we have certain dockets and budgets that are given maybe to the procurement manager. But a certain budget that will exceed, and we know this is a highly colossal amount of money, then there has to be a board meeting, there has to be a board sitting to approve this particular budget. So even if we raise accusatory fingers to the procurement officers, some of this, as Patrick is putting it, you know, some of the specification that they've been putting down on maybe the request that are coming from, you know, different departments, you know, the market value. We have this particular discussion because we want to extend, you know, from the board right to the procurement officer. The decisions that are made from the board affects also the procurement officers.
It is my question, Rachel. Let me take it.
Yeah. So you tell us, because can we enrope the board members on this?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. And say some of this decision where we have trillions of shillings, it has to be now the board level meeting which has to sit and decide, yes, which particular tenders are we going to take?
Debarl, let me take that question holistically. Rachel, you can come in.
Okay. Let's have Chris, then we'll have Rachel.
Let me go through that. Fortunately, procurement is very exciting for everyone. And I really want to thank Patrick because of his experience as a CEO for many years, and also because of his experience from the private sector where he has chaired many boards, about practically what does happen. We as procurement professionals in the Kenyan supply chain, we've stated very categorically, and you have pointed it out, that we actually abhor corruption in its form, in every nature.
Yes.
And everywhere that we go, we say our officers must adhere to a correct code, both by obeying the 2015 procurement law, by obeying our own act, etc. But these officers are not alone. They act in a chain. And whereas we offer a lot of training and exposure, the personal decision, the policing of that personal decision is actually your personal decision at the end of the day. And that's why Reverend was saying in this country we need a change of heart. And I was actually commenting that in Rwanda you don't need a change of heart, you need more than that. You need a force of law that shows that if you have not changed heart, we will change that heart or we'll take that heart away. You know, really. Because at the end of the day, it's your personal decision whether you obey a good law or you disobey it. We have no shortage of laws. Now, coming to the practice of procurement in corporates, the whole chain starts from a user,
yes,
as Engineer Obath has said. And this user is the one then, from the specifications, who actually drives the entire program. But prior to that, the procurement officer, in his professionalism, works with the CEO and the board and the users, and they develop a long-term procurement plan which is in line with the budget. So there's nothing that's surprising unless there's a catastrophe in that institution. Now that budget is what is followed, and that plan is what's implemented for each particular procurement. Now the procurement implementation in itself within the organization also takes into consideration a number of committees and a number of specialist groupings which actually do the evaluation, they do the determinations, and at the end of the day, when the process is finished, the procurement officer is the one then who writes a professional opinion by summarizing that this procurement has been done well. And what we're saying to our members is that signature is a very valuable signature. Don't sell it with your life. Don't sell it with your heart. Write that this process is fair. Don't wait to be forced. And we have examples in this country, in the counties, in big corporates, where officers are saying we are being forced, yeah, to sign things. We are being forced to give opinion or to overturn our opinions. And they say, if you overturn your opinion, you will be in the dock and you will be in jail away without your senior officer who forced you. So you have to make a decision yourself. Do you want to live with a few millions in your pocket and the rest of your life in jail, or what do you want? But I want to go back and say that by and large, we've got very many good officers in this country. We must not get away from the studio without bearing that in mind, that we have got many, many good officers who actually uphold their work. It is spoiled by the few, and that's why we support the vetting process. That look, this vetting should actually be done properly so that it weeds out the bad guys whom we have in our midst. Number two, the only way to grow this economy is to actually look at big ideas like the Big Four, and you can't deliver them without proper procurement processes being in place. And that's part of why we support that. Let's drive the Big Four agenda. Let's have clean procurement behind it. That's when the billions will actually go.
The biggest threat to the Big Four is what we are discussing.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, the president, in my view, will leave a legacy. Probably not through the Big Four.
Yes.
But if he can tackle this animal. If he can tackle this animal, he will leave a legacy in this country. Yeah. Not the Big Four. Because the Big Four will not work if he can't address it. Right. And I think, and the examples, I think, Chris, you have said it. We have two countries which come to my mind. Botswana has diamonds. Sierra Leone has diamonds. Sierra Leone has gone to war because of diamonds. Botswana has never. The guy who retired at 64, everybody who goes there, you joke with diamonds, you are dead. And it has benefit. Go to Gaborone today. You can see the cost of living is good. Look at this country. 2005, we had the household survey. 2015-16, we did the same. Compare the two. We are worse off than we were 2005.
Let's hear from, we'll come to you, Professor Gesami. Let's hear from Reverend Njenga.
I think we need to help the crooks in this country by all means possible to understand that crookedness does not pay.
Exactly.
We can have as many rules as we want, but if crookedness continues to pay,
to be rewarded,
we will get nowhere.
All right.
Now, that means what? the leadership has to understand that this is not a walk in the park, and we've got to take it and deal with it. Yeah. And we cannot keep, you know, postponing it or creating excuses. Now, the beauty about dealing with this thing firmly is you don't have to deal with too many people. I do not know what I would recommend, but if you severely deal with 3 or 4 or 5 in a way that we all know, in a way that will satisfy us, that we know it has happened, others will learn from that. It will not happen again. But we keep delaying it, wanting to play nice and good, and the crooks continue stealing from this country.
Reverend knows, he has told me in private what needs to be done.
Yeah, I have told you in private. I don't want to say it in public. And it is brutal.
Why can't you say it in public?
We then have,
it's a good thing in private, you know. I mean, it will be maybe a prime solution to actually solve this issue.
Well, I don't know. I think we should shoot a few people.
There he goes.
Actually, now, another problem we have in this country, which we've got to move away from, is tribal thinking.
Yeah.
It is not tribes which steal.
Yes.
It is not tribes that take away NYS money or destroy Kenyatta National Hospital.
Yes.
It is individuals. And when they take that money, I haven't seen it. I don't know where it is. Whether that is my tribesman or tribeswoman or not, we need to help Kenyans understand that tribes don't steal and we don't get a job. And that's, again, leadership. We don't give people jobs simply because they belong to tribes.
Yes.
And then we need to get the public angry. Now, I can understand why we get discouraged because we've seen one thief too many. We've seen things go wrong in far too many places.
Yes.
And therefore, the public tends to be cynical. We saw some lady called Kabura, and we know what happened. Now we have another one called Ngirita. It's likely to go the same way, and the public is likely to get, you know, worried and discouraged and cynical.
Okay.
I think the public needs to be angry. Whether we are talking about estate groupings or we are talking about professional groupings, we are talking about the public in whichever forum and way, people need to be angry. This is our country.
All right.
We don't have any other, Debarl, and unless for you, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm angry as well because we are not actually making sure the people who are waking up every morning, hardworking Kenyans also are getting a share, you know, of the good work that they put out there. So we put out a lot, the taxes are taken from us, yet a few actually are benefiting from this particular, you know, malfeasance that we're having. So that is a niggling worry. And Patrick Obath, maybe we need to trend. Okay, before we come to, let's hear from Gesami. You wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to clear a perception that is we are trying. I mean, we might be creating here.
You wanted to support me.
Yeah,
before I started.
no. We need to clear a perception we might be creating here. We are not saying that particular people in government or in private sector are thieves. We are saying that the entire fabric of Kenya is soiled. You don't know where to start and where to end. Negative ethnicity is corruption. Carrying money from NYS in banks is corruption. So banks are corrupt.
Yes.
So we have a problem there. You know, so it's not a procurement officer. It's not a financial officers only. But that is where it starts. And the engineer there puts it very right. If you are going to valley a road, and I will give you a road, this road going to my home called Naroko Road. Where is that engineer who did that road? If you actually, the first time it was swept. So putting less materials on a road is corruption. Mm-hmm. I mean, a procurement officer can also, since it falls there, apparently they don't even have budgets in the government. They don't have budgets even in private. The user departments have budgets. Yes. The people called procurement officers action what is required by that department. But then they should be strong enough to say, you can't value this road this much. If it's going to value this much, then let's have all technical people.
15%.
Yeah, let's have all the people here. Yeah. Let's put this on the table. Let's call the technical people. Let's have even call the experts to tell us why this road, instead of using 1 billion, it's now using 5 billion. And that is what the bike keeps bringing us back to. Budgets are done. in government, if we went to government, they are done very clearly, specifically. And then we do supplementary budgets, which I really don't like, because sometimes it is important to do a budget zero-based, so that you can cost everything you need before you just put money there and call it a supplementary budget. Now, if we have to stop the corruption, then we need to think through the entire process. Exactly. From the engineers, the doctors, all the professionals in government and everywhere. We are not saying that particular officers are corrupt. It is a collusion.
But we need to start somewhere. Yeah. Because it is a collusion, Patrick, and you know that very well. Because what we saw here is, yes, we have the store managers, we have the financial accountants as well. It is a whole collusion on how will I raise my requisition. Right? Yeah. And then the LPO will come from the procurement department. Right? The stores now will actually claim that they've received, and they've received
the only reason, the only reason that process works is because it pays someone. Where to start? Deal with the people, hold people to account. Yes. If somebody, the road that didn't work and they're still living in this country, you don't give them another higher job. You take them to committee and throw away the key. Yeah. And they remain there.
But we also need, and I think there's something, those guys we have now, I think we need to encourage them. Don't go down our own.
Who are these?
The guys who are in court. Yeah.
There are guys who are in court. I will expose you.
Yes.
I didn't eat our own.
Yes.
I will say I eat with Patrick.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I will tell them, please spill the beans.
As you get hung.
Let me don't get hung at all.
Okay. Let's hear from Patrick. We'll come to you, Chris. We'll come to you. Let's hear from Patrick.
I think I still go back to the issue of leadership and the role of leadership in this whole thing. I was quite strong about starting with the president and coming down and cleaning. But I think in every single organization, you have a similar structure.
Yeah.
Right? You have a similar structure. In a company, I am the chairman of the board. I have a role. That board has a role. And below that, as you go down the hierarchy, everybody has a role to play in stopping this. But it must start right at the top of that organization. Right? And the issue is the same whether it is Kenya Inc., starting with the president coming down, or Patrick Obath Inc., starting with me as the chairman of the whole thing. The chairman is not knowledgeable about everything in that company. And you cannot expect a chairman to know from accountancy to how to fish best if it's a fishing company. The board in a company brings in the different skills and knowledge that allows proper supervision of the operations of that organization. Whether it's a company, whether it's a government department or whatever, they need to be able to scrutinize every single aspect of the operation of that organization. So the skills that are in the board are crucial to be able to exercise that supervisory role and also recognize that they themselves have a fiduciary role. A lot of times people say, I want to be on a board and everything else, but remember, if something goes wrong, you are personally accountable for what went wrong, especially if that area that went wrong is your area of specialty that brought you to that board. So we need to be able to now begin to understand that, yes, the practice is there, all the structures are there, as Prof said, all the governance issues are there. But who is it that is put in those positions, right? You say Patrick Obath is an engineer, but what kind of engineer? Is he a reliable engineer? Precisely. Is he the right engineer to understand the particular engineering that is required in that institution? Or is he just an engineer, therefore he's fine?
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
And you go down. I think we need to clearly begin to weed out and get the right people from the chairman all the way through the board, and then they make sure that the management and everybody else is properly put in. Then we can begin to slay this dragon.
Right, thank you. Let's hear from Chris. We'll come to you, Rev.
I want to build onto what Sister Rejo and Engineer Obath touched on leadership. In particular, if you know that in this country and in your organization, the point of potential leakage is the procurement process, the whole process, not just the individuals in procurement, then you would expect that you empower the persons you put in procurement so that they are not junior, their opinion is not respected within the organization, so that what they write down to you, or when they consult with you, or when the chairman calls them, they are answering from a point of not only knowledge, but authority. Now, what you do find in many organizations is that the procurement officers and to an extent, the accountants, they are actually some of the most junior officers in those organizations. In terms of ranking, they can actually be reporting to the CEO, but there are 3-4 ranks below everybody else who's reporting to the CEO. So we need to put our money where our mouth is really, by saying, if we need to hold the procurement officer accountable for holding the process as an integral process. He can advise, he can call the users to account, he can sanction in advising the chairman and the CEO. Yes. Then he should be sufficiently confident by his placement. Then one other thing, you don't have officers who earn very little and you are empowering them with too much responsibility. So really, in my view, Patrick, you just need to ensure that the officers that you have are not only well positioned, but you reward them so that they don't get tempted to be stealing. I like to deal with examples that have actually been cited right here on this table.
Yes.
That if you deal with cases decisively, if you set examples by how you have handled previous corruption cases that have come before you, whether it's in an organization, whether it's in the matters of the country, you set a very strong, powerful example. And that's why we, as the Kenya Institute of Supplies Management, we said we will support the president in this initiative that he has put forward, because we do know that we do have, by results of what we see, people who actually are obviously corrupt. If you remove these people, then you stop giving the nation an excuse of hanging every corruption activity on the door of procurement. The policeman is doing something, you think he's a procurement officer. Somebody's messing up with lands, you think he's a procurement officer. That excusism and escapism has to go away from our lips, so that we address these issues fundamentally and holistically, so that corruption, wherever it is tackled. It doesn't become a procurement problem by itself. And that confirmation and commitment, as the Institute, we give to the nation, that we are prepared to deal with any rogue people that are brought to our attention. We don't have investigative capabilities. They are elsewhere. Right. If somebody is misbehaving in Professor Rachel's university, we won't actually know what they're doing until Rachel smokes them out. Then we blacklist them and we take them out. We can't do that without the support of organizations. And this is where the NSC, the KEPSA, the KMA, all these big associations, they actually got to be very firm with the organization and say, we need to see you have in place professionals who are there to their code of ethics, they are registered, they can be followed up, and you don't have quacks sitting in your midst trying to do accounts, trying to do procurement, and then you blame everybody else for what happens in your organization. Right.
Let's hear from Geoffrey.
I have a challenge for the judiciary.
For the judiciary?
The judiciary.
Yes.
We've been saying here we have all the laws in this country to run this country. But I think the judiciary has lagged behind in stamping its authority and getting people to do what they are supposed to do. Now, of course, all manner of laws can be quoted, but I think we need to accept that we don't apply the law in a vacuum. We have problems we need to deal with. Yes. And judiciary is one of the pillars that needs to come out in the open. I was very happy the other day to hear the Chief Justice say, we support this war against corruption. Yeah. You know, we, for the longest time, have been familiar with the process. Someone is arrested, and they are quickly taken to some court somewhere. Before very long, they are out. Then they are put in again, and they are out. And this game has not helped us at all. I think the judiciary has to rise to the occasion and get people to understand there are jails in this country. And by the way, we've been expanding very many things in this country. I'm not aware that we've been expanding jails. And I think for some time, I think we need to expand them and put as many crooks as possible in there. How come we are not expanding them?
Good question. And of course, even looking today, the editorial cartoon that we have also on our touch screen there, we have Okio Mutata. Yeah, and he's moved to courts right now also to stop this particular development of the voting of the procurement officers. Look at that particular editorial cartoon. They say Constitution Interpreter in Chief, and we have him there. And the Constitution of Kenya, this is Okio Mutata. Is he the sole person that is actually, vouching for the Constitution, that everyone should find, to make sure the sanctity of the Constitution is observed? Everything that is codified within the Constitution is observed. Recently he moved to court to make sure that that circular by Kenya on the appointment of the chair of the board of the extension of the term of the Commissioner General of KRA is not extended. Right now, again, he's here to defend also the procurement officers as well. You are supporting the vetting process.
I thought that was actually the president, not him.
You thought it was the president?
Yes.
That is Omtata. Yeah, that is Omtata himself.
I want to respond to that.
You want to respond?
Yes, I want
Can
to
we hear
respond
from, okay, sure.
Yeah, I want to respond to that because you've actually addressed it to me. We've supported this. Omtata seems to be opposing it. I don't think we are on different stands with Omtata on this particular one.
Yes.
If you remember my first press conference, which I gave with the authority of the Supplies Institute, and the demands that we put forward to the executive, which started even before this directive,
yes,
is that we not only support acts of vetting and ensuring that people who are corrupt are fished out of society, and Omtata has been at the forefront of fighting corruption. If you look at Mudaura's, Honorable Kinyua's note in the page 3,
yes,
the last paragraph, which is actually what motivated us, so says, whereas this exercise is geared towards determining suitability to continue holding public office in public trust and promote confidence in the public service, the same will be undertaken in a fair and objective manner, exercised with due care and regard to officers' rights as enshrined in the Constitution. In my press conference, I said, we support you vetting our officers as long as you do not abuse their constitutional right. We said, we know the government machinery may not have enough capacity to do the vetting, especially in understanding the technical aspects of the professions that are involved. We offer you the support by being there as an institute to help in plugging any skills gap in ensuring that the vetting is fair, is practical, and it also ensures that you understand that the officer's work runs this way and don't audit him with a view to victimize them. So we are not at different odds with what Omtata is saying. Omtata is saying if you are going to vet these people, please do it constitutionally. And we are holding Honorable Kinyua.
I can tell you, practically,
yeah,
it's happening. And this is what I like. You know, you can make all the noise there. Practically, it's happening. The institutions have gone. I think the point perhaps here is not even the action to take those officers out. What does it mean you have told the finance officer or the procurement officer, go? I think to me the point is really as an institution. Because what we are saying here, these are the people who are involved in this. And I don't think so.
No,
it's a whole process.
Yeah.
I had an experience, you know, like I wanted a laptop, like not this one really, when I was in government. And I was told it's 270,000.
Was it for rock science?
No. Then what I did, I took the same specs I gave my boys. So
yes,
go to 3 shops.
Yeah.
It was 90,000.
Yes.
I walked to the PS Sabiri then. I told Sabiri, look, this thing, the same specs, is 90. Here is 270. I'm not taking it.
That's theft.
It's theft.
That is theft.
No, what happened to the particular people who were involved? They were just transferred to another ministry. I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Take action at that particular point.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and I think and I think when we rush to things, and you get well-crafted documents like the one you are reading, why is the action in it?
Yep.
Yes.
I think, Prof, there's an issue that I have with the civil service. The civil service code is very weak in terms of actions to be taken in the event people are found to be capable of a particular thing.
Yeah.
We need to change it so that, like in the private sector, if the minute you have found that there is a suspicion around you, there is very quick action that is taken. But as you said, somebody was transferred to another place.
Correct.
I have got rid of the problem from a place into somebody else's backyard. And then eventually it will come up and then they'll be transferred again.
Yes.
We need to change that whole employment contract and the way it works so that in the event that there is a complaint, a suspicion, there is an immediate possible action that is taken, which is not transfer or asking you to step aside or doing whatever it is. There is positive action that the leadership in that organization can take, and then there is a process, all within fairness, within the Constitution, within your rights, that ensures that you're treated well, just like has been said in there. Yeah, that process needs to be there within the code of conduct of the civil service and the whole way the Public Service Act is. Yeah. It needs to go back in so that there's a much better process. If it's not there, we'll just be going to continue going around in circles.
In circles, yes.
And bless his heart, Kinyua can put out these circulars,
yes,
but they'll be ineffective.
Correct.
Yes, please.
You know, in government, we have very good policies in paper. What is actually, you know, difficult in government is the implementation of all the policies that are in place. And we do need then to think carefully about the accountability of what is in government. You know, leadership that must be ready to account to the people of Kenya. Efficiency and effectiveness is one thing that we need to look for as a principle of corporate governance. And say, okay, does this leadership give results? And if this leadership is not giving results, then we can't call it efficient and effective. We need to look at property and integrity in this leadership. Leave alone the paperwork, as engineers said, as Chris has said, as referent has said, my professor here. It is not a question of what is on paper, what Mutaura has put in, what Kinyo has put in. It is the implementation of what they have put as circulars, the code of ethics that is followed. Okay. Then we need to look at the responsibility of the leaders. You know, leadership that is capable and is also able to be conscious of their actions. Why do we, you know, if you look at the Kenyan budget, excuse me, yes. The Kenyan budget, the revenue base of this country is huge. As a matter of fact, we are number 3 in the world.
Yes.
I mean in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa. It is Nigeria, South Africa, and then Kenya. We collect revenue. Yes. But that revenue doesn't translate into actions.
And we, yes, still want to increase, we still want to increase the revenue.
Yes. You know, Chris said that's where you see houses, that's where you see roads. That's where we see roads that are falling. You know, after one rainfall, they have been swept away. That's why we see houses that are collapsing on people. That's, you know, everything is really down. But it is not that Kenyans don't pay tax. And we were here in this forum talking about, yes, saying we cannot, you know, add now VAT into other aspects. The poor people down there are actually dying. Yeah, they are actually dying. And I'm not joking, poverty has become so... to people in this country. Because it's not going to be enabled to go to school, yes, to do what they need to do. So we need to look at transparency in government, in all actions that we deal with.
But before we come to you, Reverend Njenga, you raised the issue of Passat. You remember the VWs and the austerity measures were coming from government. And by then, Dr. Gesami, I think you were in government. You are the principal secretary. Could you also tell us what really happened when we had this particular statement here from the Minister of Finance then, who was President Uhuru Kenyatta, then, saying, yes, all public officers should not take the, you know, fuel guzzlers, but we should be going with the Passats. Was that a circular?
Yes.
What happened to the circular? You used to be the permanent secretary. Okay, just give us a brief of that. Yeah, we can see the guzzlers everywhere with the governors, with every public official.
Yes, I was a PS for a very short period during the Kibaki regime. And I was kicked out. I didn't even know where I was kicked out from.
Why were you kicked out?
Simply because I didn't have a political experience then. Now, the truth of the matter is this. I'm so happy that I was kicked out because I didn't want to. I would have been, you know, put in all of this jargon of storing that. I drive Agasra from Hadwa. I drive Agasra. That was a circular. To answer your question, it was a circular. And in fact, those vehicles were then sold. I remember even buying an accident vehicle then, after leaving that office, an accident vehicle which was, you know, part of those ones that were being cleared from government. And the vehicles were, you know, kept, and the Passats came in. The Passats, unfortunately, by the time the Passats were coming in, those now were given to the families.
To the families?
To take children to school for
the Passats?
Yes. They were too small. They were too small. So you will find, and this is the only country you will find one man.
And what's your experience in India?
Let me finish this one. This is one country you will find one politician with 20 security men. Yes. Some in 2 rural homes, some in Nairobi, and some. We are just too extravagant.
They even have a police post in their compound.
To a point of breaking. So we are killing the poor. Now, India is a country that you know what it is. You know, the affair, the law is very clearly followed. So there isn't that much corruption as you see here.
I've lived in India.
No,
there is mega corruption in India.
No, but let me tell you, Chris.
They deal with it.
No, let me tell you. If they catch you, they put you in. Here, first, to be employed, you have to be my relative. And that is corruption.
Yeah.
That corruption, once you have got that relative of yours is a thief, that thing dies. That story dies. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody goes anywhere. So it is a moving.
I think I don't want us to be digressed, Debarl,
yeah,
from the topic that we were discussing.
Yes.
The problem in this country has been implementation.
Okay.
I have lived in many countries,
yes,
including in India.
Correct.
And there are mega corruption scandals in India. But they deal with it, they catch up with you, they throw you in jail, and they throw away the key.
Thank you.
There's corruption in America.
Right.
There's corruption in Europe.
Yeah, yeah.
They are going
There's
different.
corruption.
I think
it's
just a
there
moment.
everywhere.
All right, just a moment.
Let's not think that the problem in our country is corruption per se.
Thank you.
It is how we tackle corruption remains the problem.
I'm remaining with a few minutes.
And in my view,
yes,
let's stop escapism. Let's stop hanging the procurement court, the corruption court in front of procurement.
It is not
Chris,
we move from that.
Okay.
It's not about
it's how we implement. It's how we implement the eradication program.
Okay. All right, just a moment. I just wanted to also ask you, before, I'll be remiss if we don't ask you, Chris, because we do not know, as Kenyans, the role of Public Procurement Oversight Authority in this country.
Yes.
Do we have also Director of Procurement in this country?
Yes, we do.
We have a Director of Procurement in this country.
Yes, we
What
do.
is the role of the Director of Procurement in this country?
There are three
when we
pillars.
have all these cases of corruption, we have all these cases that we've never had even a statement from the Director of Public Procurement.
There are three pillars of procurement in this country. There is the policy maker, which is the National Treasury, and the procurement there is headed by the director that you're talking about. He looks after the officers.
Who is the director? What is the name of the director?
The current director
Yes,
of procurement
please. Yes, please.
is Dr. Kuril.
Dr. Kuril?
Yes. It's a very nice job. He's actually been in the job for like a month. He's only been confirmed the job recently.
Who was there previously?
It was him in acting capacity.
In acting capacity.
Yes. Now, you got to understand, and Gesami can confirm, who makes statements in the public sector. Now, when the president has made a promulgation, and Koril's officer, Koril's senior officer, who is Mr. Kinywa, has also made a statement, there is no opportunity and mechanism for Dr. Kuril to say anything. Yeah? He is an implementer. The second pillar that we have, once the policy is in place, is now the regulator, which is the Public Procurement Oversight Authority that you are talking about, which is called the PPRA, which is enshrined in this law. Now, this office ensures that the procurement law is implemented in the country, and they regulate how that happens. The third pillar is the professional arm, which is who are the practitioners and how do they carry out the implementation of procurement, the supply of labor, whose membership is within the Kenya Institute of Supplies Management. That's the three of them. Now, we have the capacity to make statements and clarify on behalf of members and member roles, whereas these other two pillars are embedded within the government, and the chief spokesman for them is obviously higher up. Yeah? So if their boss, who is our national boss, the president, has actually said something, you don't expect these officers to say something else. And in any case, what will they say which is different from what I'm saying or from what the president is saying? We uphold corruption in all its forms. If there are procurement officers who are corrupt, we need to identify them fairly, not just assume and blame them, and then take them through a due process and end up dealing with them constitutionally. And they get the fair share of judgment. That's really what we are saying
when
here.
they were doing corruption,
Thank
did they go through the due process?
All right. I'm sorry to butt in. We have just to take
the corrupt officers?
Just a moment.
No, the rule of law requires.
All right, guys,
that
just a
even
moment.
matter is taken
Thank
through
you.
a due
Engineer
process.
Chris, just a moment. Just a moment. We have to just take a short break. Of course, also, you know, the World Cup fever is catching up with us. And we also are beginning a road show to make sure that we sensitize Kenyans that, yes, of course, here is the home of the real story when it comes to World Cup. And you can see already Sean Cadavilis is standing by the World Cup beside him, and then is just about to give us also a lowdown of what is happening this morning. Good morning to you, Sean.
Yes, a very good morning to you. It is drizzling a little bit. We're just down at the entrance of Nation Center here at Kimathi Street. And it is the start of the Nation Roadshow, the NTV Roadshow, this partnership with Kwese TV. As we look forward to the World Cup, just 6 days left to the World Cup. Of course, you can see the trophy here right next to me, and it promises to be a real thriller this morning. We're going to be live in a few minutes. Plenty of giveaways, World Cup jerseys, a little bit like the one I'm wearing, but we will, of course, have different countries, but we'll also have representatives from Nation Media Group, representatives from Kwese TV, and, of course, plenty of entertainment. Of course, the theme is football. It is just 6 days, 32 matches live on NTV. This partnership with Kwese, it's coming up in a few minutes.
Well, many thanks indeed. Sean Kadaville is looking very nice in that particular jersey, Argentine jersey as well. Thank you very much. And of course, we shall be also following this particular story with you this morning, right? So we are coming back to our discussion this morning, even as we're preparing to wind up. And I think I'd interrupted your thought line as we're preparing to wind up. Let's just begin. You had to say something, Dr. Gituro?
I was saying this, and I'll share this. It happened to me when I was the side of government. I appreciated giving my thought on in government, work in government. And I was at the Intercontinental, and I was talking about the corporate values. And I talked about the lady Kaino. We don't hear about her anymore, who was crushed on Wayakwe. Mm-hmm. And later on, I was told the father walked out.
Yes.
Very angry man. And the question I asked, and I think it will come out very strongly, that we must follow the due process. What due process do we have in killing this young girl? There are certain things, and I think it's important, Debarl,
yes,
at this stage, and I'm asking you very strongly, to declare this animal we are dealing with as a national disaster.
Yes, it is. Completely.
And that gives the president to do certain things. That gives the leadership to do certain things. Because if you don't, and the president of Nigeria put it very clearly last week, if you don't address corruption, if you don't kill corruption, it will destroy us.
Thank you, thank you. Right, Rachel, your parting shots briefly.
No, I had my passing shot, this one. I think it was not right to put Obama on the front page of this nation.
It was not right? All
yes.
right.
Look there, first one is on corruption. Second one is corruption. Third one is corruption. How do you put a good man
on the front page of a Daily Nation? Okay, let me just show it to our viewers. I walk up to the touch screen so that they can see. Today's Daily Nation, you yes, say it was not good, or if you may speak it, there you go.
Take all the other stories on that page.
Yes.
Why do we put Obama there, a man of integrity?
That's
all right,
one.
Rachel, briefly.
Yes, just to summarize, you know, we have the governance theory. We have what you call the stakeholder theory and the steward theory, to summarize this whole debate.
30 seconds.
In this country, what we are expected to be doing 55 years after independence is creating wealth for our children, not gravitating in poverty and gravitating in corruption of such a huge magnitude that it leaves our children confused.
Thank you. Let's hear from Chris, briefly, 30 seconds.
I want to call upon the APSIA, the Association of Professional Societies in East Africa, and led by a Kenyan, that we as professionals must stand up and count our role in the corruption that takes place in this country. We must abhor it, we must live by our words, we must set an example. And I, as the chairman of the Kenya Social Supplies Management, we are committing to the country that we want to live by the law and deliver the big projects of this country by ensuring that we do the good job that many good officers are doing.
Reverend Geoffrey Njenga, briefly.
We need to move away from declarations of intent.
Correct.
And take swift action. If somebody has been caught stealing fertilizer, it doesn't help me for the PS to come and say someone has been stealing. I want to know what has been done. So let people lead from the front and do what needs to be done.
Right, thank you.
Let's address our values as well.
All right, Patrick Obath, finally, 30 seconds.
For me, it's simple. Leadership in this country at whatever level has to be brutal and ruthless in terms of ensuring that we begin to expunge this issue of corruption.
Absolutely.
Simple as that. If leadership doesn't act, it will never happen.
Thank you. Right, thank you.